So now we have a bunch of techniques for solving equations. In particular for solving quadratic equations. We got completing the square and factoring, the square root method, and those are all great. The factoring method is a little limited. Not everything seems to factor. And I don't know, completing the square, it involves some calculations. What I'd really like to have is a formula, right? And ideally, it would involve just those three numbers, the a, b, and c, right? Those three coefficients. That way, when I have a specific equation that I want to solve, all I have to do is take those three numbers, put them into the equation, a little arithmetic, right, a little simplifying, and out comes the answer. All right, well, it turns out I can do that. And what I'm going to do is right now, I'm going to walk through the steps and show you how this formula is actually derived. And I want to be clear first about what our goal is. I am ultimately trying to solve this equation. I want to get something that looks like x equals something with just a's, b's, and c's in it. And here's how I'm going to do that, right? First, let's kind of get this out of the way, right? Give myself a little room to work. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the completing the square method that we've seen before for solving quadratic equations. Now remember, to do that, I can't have anything in front of that x squared. All right, fine. So my first step is going to be to factor out that a. And this will become x squared plus b over a x, leave some space here, plus c equals 0. Now, to complete the square, I got to find that number, right? That number that I'm going to add. So let's see. Remember how we do that? We take that b over a, divide it by 2, and square it. All right, so let's see. This becomes b over 2a squared, which is b squared over 4a squared. All right, good. So let's add that. B squared over 4a squared. And I got to do it to both sides, right? But remember, I didn't just add b squared over 4a squared. I'm multiplying by this a here. So what I really added, and I'm going to put this on the right side, is a times b squared over 4a squared. All right, so let's see. The left side factors now. This is a times x plus b over 2a squared plus c still equals, and this a cancels with 1 down here, and we're left with b squared over 4a. All right, now I want to use my square root method. I want to take the square root of both sides, right, ultimately. So to do that, first I have to move the c over. So let's subtract c from both sides. The equation becomes a x plus b over 2a squared equals b squared over 4a minus c. Good. Now let's see. Next, let's combine that right-hand side. I'm going to make that into one fraction. So we need a common denominator. If you think of this c as c over 1, I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 4a. And this turns into a x plus b over 2a squared equals b squared over 4a minus 4ac over 4a. Now I can combine those two together. Still not messing with the left side. Still a x plus b over 2a squared equals b squared minus 4ac over 4a. Okay, great. We're getting there. Now, let's see. I want to get rid of this a out in front. So let's multiply both sides by 1 over a. Right, the a's will cancel over here. So all that's left is x plus b over 2a squared equals b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Excellent. Now we're square root. Right, square root of both sides, square root of this side. The left side cleans up now. This is x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus, and look, I'm going to split this. I'm going to make this the square root of b squared minus 4ac over the square root of 4a squared, because that bottom part, I can get rid of the square root. X plus b over 2a equals plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. You see, that's looking nice, right? I got that fraction on the left-hand side, but their denominators are the same. So let's move it over, right? Because I'm almost there. Remember, my goal is to get x by itself. So x equals negative b over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared, I should have written that a little lower, minus 4ac over 2a. And now I'm almost there. One more step, combine these two fractions together. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And that's it. That's it. My quadratic formula. Right? It's got a name. Right? There's what it's called. Let me get my x in there, right? Make it clear on the last step here. So if I give you an equation, we'll look at some examples of this in the next lecture. All you have to do is take the a, b, and c numbers, put them into this formula here on the right-hand side, simplify it. There's your answer. All right, so that's what we're going to do in the next lectures, right? We've got two more where I'm going to work out a bunch of specific examples.